So, hello everyone. I'm super honored and excited to welcome this wonderful woman, Aimee Jean Greenacre. She's an energetic and passionate health expert, an integrative nutrition coach, a natural food chef, and a conscious teacher. She uses real food as the foundation to help her clients heal, nourish, and intuitively connect with their true self, so they can learn how to cultivate the energy from within and ultimately help find their path to living a healthy and purposeful life.
Oh.
Wow. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm super honored because I really, really appreciate you. And I'm super thrilled to go and write and dive deep into lots of very interesting questions. And maybe for the beginning, maybe you can start with when did this whole journey for you start, and why are you doing what you're doing right now? Why are you so passionate about it?
Okay. Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here today as well. Being on your show and having this conversation. Really, I think when we met, your energy also was just so beautiful. So I'm very grateful to be here today. So thank you so much. Okay. So my journey. Honestly, I think it happened the moment that I was birthed into the world. And I have shared with you on the women's retreat, my story. My mother was practicing a natural birthing method called birth by orgasm. So basically, I was brought into the world in a very natural kind of conscious way where the energy around me was actually like pleasure and bliss. So I entered into the world in that kind of energy. And I didn't find this information out until I was the age of 29. And so when I found this out, I was like, wow, my whole life makes so much more sense now that I know this. And I basically feel like this energy that I have was like the intentional way that I was birthed into the world. And then also subsequently how my mother chose to raise me, which was very, very, very consciously and holistically, naturally, breastfed. I was naturally immunized by a homeopathic natural immunization, clean vegetarian foods grown in our garden. A lot of choices that were made, I think, from a very young age that perhaps back in the 80s when I was born was, not so current and not so like popular. So I think it was very much these choices that really set this strong foundation of health and also like prevention over cure. So my mom, if we're ever unwell, it would be, we'd go to bed, she'd make us a soup, or she put an ointment on our neck, or, a tincture, or make us some kind of like Chinese medicine tea. So I always, I had grown up in this environment where my mom was turning to plants and nature for, natural remedies to heal and nourish and protect and prevent, in a way. So that was the environment that I was raised in. And obviously growing up, when everybody else is eating different foods and, white bread and Nutella and all these things that we didn't have at our house, I definitely went crazy at other people's homes and stuff like that. But it wasn't till I think later on in life, around in my 20s, where I really came back home to my foundation, and I started craving my mother's food. And I actually had like my first ever like health issue. I never went to hospital growing up. I never had any issues. I was we're all very healthy kind of children. And so it wasn't until I was in my 20s that I had my first ever health issue, which I ended up in the hospital for a procedure called a LETS procedure, which is actually like removing cancerous cells from your uterus after a pap smear. So I went into hospital at the age of 23. It was the first time I ever went into the Western medical kind of system. And anyway, I had this procedure, and it was after I had this procedure that I realized I was on the contraceptive pill at the time as well. And I came to this like deep realization, especially in your womb space, which is like that area that like governs everything. It kind of like shook me awake in a way. And I remember coming out of the general anesthesia, I was like shaking, and that was my first like huge wake up call of like, okay, I don't want to be on the contraceptive pill anymore. I came off the contraceptive pill, and I really like went back to my basics and roots of like what I knew and how I was raised. And so I very much went down that path. And it wasn't until I actually left Australia and I moved to London, my first overseas moving anywhere outside of Australia, that I really understood like how different my upbringing was. Obviously in Australia, everyone's very, outdoorsy and it's sunny and everyone lives by the beach and is very like active, and it's a very different lifestyle. In London, it's a little more challenging. It's gray and it's, busy and city life. And so I really also there came to realize like, hold on a second, the way I was raised is very different to the rest of the world. And I had this desire. I was like, I think I want to teach about this. Like, this is an area that I feel like I need to teach people. I need to help people like understand that there's another way and that you can feel good and you can cultivate this like happy energy, if you're only, so that's kind of the journey. Long story short, studied holistic nutrition when I was in Singapore, and then ended up choosing to move to LA to practice, working as a holistic nutrition coach, health coach. And then I fell into natural food chefing, which was like a natural progression. And here we are today. I've been living here for 5 years now, and I practice as a nutrition therapist now, seeing clients one-on-one. But the natural food chefing was a big part of my journey here as well. So it kind of combines. But thanks to my mum, I have all this knowledge and wisdom and understanding of like nature really is our, path to wellness and path to freedom and happiness.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's it.
Thank you so much for sharing that. When you had this procedure, right, at 23, why did it shook you so much? So what happened to you around that time?
Yeah, I think, I was a young woman coming into my 20s as well. So, you're starting to really, explore who you are as a woman. And look, I think going under a general anesthetic also for the first time in my life, like having that heavy kind of medication in my body, it was definitely like, and you're going under. So I think it was more of like a spiritual awakening in a way to like, go on. I didn't know this at the time, no way. And I can only reference it now that I know what that feeling feels like. But it was my first time of really like, tuning into my body, tuning into my, that your womb space. And it felt so invaded, in a way. Obviously someone had gone in and like burnt out, and it felt like I was awoken to that connection for the first time. I think the contraceptive pill blocked me from really having that connection, because it's a false what's it called? Existence in your womb. You have this like lining that isn't actually, your natural hormones that you're producing. And, I wasn't in tune with the cycles. I wasn't in tune with my body. I was just masking it with this like medicine. And I think it was the only medicine that I've ever been on my whole life too, and it was a control. It was like an ability to have control over my body and have autonomy, away from my way I was raised from my parents, the whole natural thing that you do when you want to, take governance over who you are and finding who you are. But I do think that like invasion in my womb space was like a real shock in terms of like waking me up to like, I don't want to be on the contraceptive pill anymore. I actually really had this resonance of like, I think the pill is actually what caused the irregular cells in the first place, So yeah, it was a huge wake up call. And I think, I definitely made some choice. I went off the contraceptive pill after that. And I battled with like really bad skin, and my hormones just, it took a long time to get really well balanced again. So that was a challenging time for sure, but it was definitely like a strong choice. And then going back to like healthy food and cooking for myself, and I really like ingraining myself in that kind of, taking control of my health in a way.
This is such a big part, right? Because more and more women realize that now, this is like a big thing with all these hormones, and to rebalance them again. And we also actually using food, the natural food to help our bodies and to attune to our bodies again, This is such a big part. So what happened? Do you have some certain techniques or tools? So what did you do after going through all of that? And what kind of foods helped you to actually, in the beginning, to start attuning to your body again? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I guess like at that age, I remember just going like back and eat. I always crave like big salads, from my family. My mom would always make big salads. So I was always going back just like fresh, clean produce. And in Australia, it's obviously very easy. People eat like that. You can order very healthy food wherever you're out. And I have to say, I've always been pretty healthy. And I think when I moved to London, and I understood like it was a very unhealthy chapter in terms of like, you know, everyone, you eat differently though. There, the weather is cold. And so I started really understanding that. So you're eating more bread and more cheese and like more cooked meats and things like that, which I wasn't really raised on my whole life, but my body actually kind of resonated with it because you need those, you know, root vegetables and more hearty stews and, you know, things like that. So I think when you remove yourself from your environment and you have to adapt and start, you know, eating different foods than maybe your body is used to, it did make me realize, I think, you know, that there were certain foods that didn't resonate with me that I was trying, you know, and I was also in a relationship. So I was eating a lot what he was eating. And I think it was probably like a year into living in London where I felt my body starting to change. You know, your body, I started gaining weight and stuff. I'd always been quite a slim person in Australia, but that's because of the, you know, the outdoor kind of nature. And so I kind of realized, I was like, you know what, I don't want to, it was a big wake up call in terms of like, I don't want to drink alcohol anymore. So I kind of cut back on drinking alcohol. That was a big one that kind of shifted things. But also for me, the two things that I know that cleared up my skin, especially in my young 20s, was removing dairy and gluten from my diet. And these are two things that I think in Europe is probably a lot cleaner than say like the States. But when I came out of that relationship after dating for 5 years, and when I moved to LA and I wasn't around, you know, the food all the time, or even the distraction of like being in a relationship, I was like, okay, I'll just have some bread and just have a little bit more, you know, kind of in it with him. And I was just really by myself again. I could really choose what I wanted to put in my body. And the moment I have removed like dairy and gluten, I don't get any breakouts anymore. Like my body really just resonates with not eating that, and drinking clean water, sleeping a lot, you know, and eating just clean seasonal food for the environment that you live in, I think is one of the most important tips that I can advise anybody is like, listen to your body for the environment you're living in. Don't follow like a tropical fruit diet if you're living in the middle of Europe. There's no tropical fruit that grows there, you know. Maybe you need to eat more of the starchy root vegetables that are, you know, grounding and warming. Eating more cooked foods in a colder environment is obviously better for your agni or your digestion fire. But when you're in a hot tropical place, yes, you should be eating, you know, more tropical things and stuff like that. So it's really beautiful when you travel to really allow your body to assimilate into the land and the food that grows where you grow, you know, eating that local seasonal. That's my like ethos and tips I always tell everybody.
Right. Thank you so much for that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have some tips to rebalance all your hormones, right? When you go off the pill. So yeah, because this is also like a big part what you do in your one-on-one coaching, right?
Yeah. So I'm not a trained naturopath. I'm not a naturopathic doctor. And it's one thing that I'm very strongly, you know, opinionated about is that you need to learn to listen to your own body. It's not my job to tell you what you should eat for your body. It's your job to tune into your body and understand what the messaging from your body is telling you. What are the cravings that you're having? Are you hungry late at night? Are you, you know, starving in the morning? Are you not so hungry in the morning? Do you crave a sweet thing at 3 p.m. or 4 p.m.? Are you having a sugar crash? Really, are you, you know, turning to food when you're lonely? Or are you turning to food when you need a hug versus, you know, actually eating for nourishment and eating for fuel? So generally speaking, if I'm working with a client who has any type of hormonal issue or a digestion issue or any kind of issue whatsoever, usually I'll work alongside a naturopathic doctor or a functional medicine doctor, and we'll get all of their lab works done, and we'll get all of their levels and their food sensitivities, their nutrient levels and things like that. And then they will come to me with those results, and we can work on a program to like really decipher, hey, what works for you and what's going to make you feel the best. So it really has nothing to do with what I think. I can share what works for my body and where I live in California and the style of lifestyle that really suits what I do for a living. It's important to really tune into that. I think for women, you know, understanding your cycle is probably one of the most important things that I wish that we were taught from the moment we started having our period. We have 4 different seasons within our month. And once we realize which season we're in for the time of the month. So we have, I always forget this wrong, but it's obviously springtime, just after winter, we have spring. And then we go into summer, which is like super expansive and we have a lot of energy. And then after that, when we start to menstruate going to pre-menstruation, we have autumn. So like everything starts dying and like everything's like drying up. And then we have our winter. And so if you know which part of the month that you're in and when you're tracking your cycle, if you have a 4-week cycle, this is where you should be supporting your body with different types of foods for energy, foods for relaxation, foods for nourishment, and foods for grounding. So I think that's a beautiful thing for women, especially if they're trying to balance their hormones, is actually knowing which part of their cycle that they're in, knowing when, hey, I should book all my meetings when I'm in my summer stage, because you're very expansive and you have a lot of energy, versus like when you're going to be a little grumpy the week before in your autumn, and where things are like, oh, you know, so that's when you should be having, you know, more you time. And so even just like your energy wise, it's really beautiful to be with, you know, to just be aware of where you are in your cycle. And again, listening to your body is like the number one thing that we all need to get better at, and not listening to other people telling you, oh, I eat eggs. I do eggs for breakfast and this, that, and the other. And it's like, okay, but maybe you don't want it. Your body doesn't do well with eggs. So like, don't eat eggs in the morning, you know. I think this like mass, ideas of, you know, what works for certain people, it doesn't work for everybody. Everyone is so unique and such an individual that you really have to find this out for yourself. And that takes responsibility. It takes experimentation, and it takes a lot of like nurturing and listening and nurturing your body, and self-care, and like time away from people and noise, and time in nature to really get back to your own rhythm, you know. And when you sync, I mean, number one thing also is like syncing with the cycles of nature is also another beautiful way for you to understand. So yes, we have our seasons once a month, but we also have the seasons in life, right? So every year we have these different times of the year where same thing, it's winter now, and coming into springtime. Actually, I think it's spring tomorrow. We're at the end of winter, right? And so, you know, really just witnessing, okay, great. Maybe it's time to start like shedding energy around us, like cleaning out your clothes, cleaning out your cupboards, and getting ready for springtime, which is more like this soft cleaning off, kind of like coming back out into your blooming, you know. And we have to let go of our winter coats and let go of our winter habits and stuff like that. So even just from an energetic and lifestyle perspective, there's so much we can be doing to support our bodies to feel like they're in flow also, you know. The reason why our hormones, you know, I mean, there's so many things that affect our hormones, right? So yes, there's food is one element of it, but another element, food actually just supports our hormones more than anything. The one thing that really makes our hormones suffer is actually the environment. It's the stresses that we have around us. It's the relationships, it's the careers, it's our homes, it's the chemicals that are in, you know, our food system and are in and around us. This is what actually affects our hormones more than anything. So we can talk about what to eat, but if you're not addressing the root cause of why they're imbalanced in the first place, perhaps you're stressed at a job that really kills your energy, or maybe you're in a really, you know, not supportive relationship that actually like triggers your adrenals, and you're not sleeping well, you're anxious about the state of the world. Like, hello, we're living in, you know, the most incredible historical time of life right now. Like this is unprecedented energy. It's so uncertain and debilitating for our energy. So, you know, yes, food can support us to get us back into harmony, but we have to get to the root causes of what's actually, you know, making us imbalance in the first place. So, and that's where I think the lifestyle and environment piece is so much more important than the actual food conversation.
Why are you so passionate about it? So why is it so important to see this bigger picture? I really, really like that you have such a big holistic view on that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I don't know. I feel like it's part of, I don't know, if, you know, when you feel like you have this purpose or passion inside of you that, you know, I've always felt a little bit different or set apart in a way from like the normal way of being, you know? And so, yeah, I think there's just an energy inside of me that knows that I'm like here to help and here to make a difference and here to be of service in some way. And so, yeah, it's something that comes very naturally to me, but also like when you feel good, like I feel good because I take care of myself. And so when I'm like, more people can have this, like you can have this energy if you just, you know, understand and give you the tips and the tools to actually like make you feel your best. You know, it's a process, and it's a how else to describe it? Like it's a lifestyle, you know. And I think if I know how, if I can help someone to see the areas of their life that are out of imbalance, then great. That's one more human that's going to be vibrating at this like joyous, happy frequency. And that, I think, when we are all taking responsibility for our energy and what we're putting out in the world. It starts by cultivating it behind closed doors, how we nourish ourselves, how we take care of ourselves, how much silence and time we have to listen to our bodies. If more people knew that that's all they had to do to start feeling more, in balance with their purpose in life, then we're going to have a much more beautiful, earth to live on with each other. So I feel like, yes, it's a responsibility in a way, but I also know that it's so much goodness that actually can make such a beautiful difference in, and again, I'm not going to be able to change the planet, but I can at least impact, some people around me in some way of just like, spreading this positive energy and positive light in a way, that's what that's why I'm most passionate about it. I'm like, if there's a beautiful quote by Marianne Williamson, which is like, who am I to play small? And they're like, well, who are you not to shine your light? Because when you shine your light, you're actually, if you don't shine your light, you're being a disservice to like the rest of the world. Because when some people see you shine your own light, then you inspire other people to like step up and shine their light more. I don't know what the actual quote is, but it's something along those lines. And it always reminds me, it's like, yeah, like if we do play small and we keep to ourselves and we're actually like not making a positive effect, it's a ripple effect, right? So like the more we shine and the more we do good work in the world, you're actually like changing the frequency of the people you interact with around you. Yes.
So beautiful, because this is exactly what happened when we met, right? You were this golden ball of just like pure magic and energy, and the way only you talked about the rainbow food inspired everyone in your environment to actually tune in, or to listen to the heart more, or to tune into the intuition, or to really question, hey, how can I be more like even softer to myself, or like it is so beautiful. And these people go out and and this is how this is rippling out.
Exactly. And that's why we're having this conversation. Who knows who heart is going to listen to this, and just like the hope of inspiring, right? Inspiration, human inspiration is so, such a beautiful thing. When we're inspired by something, it causes a fire inside of us to like want to make a difference. It's a catalyst for change.
Yes. What is there something you wished you knew before 10 years ago? Is there something, maybe somebody is like listening here now, like a woman, and you could give her like one or two suggestions? What would that be?
I think there's something about us as women, we don't trust our own intuition enough. Someone had told me like a long time ago, like, don't rush, slow down, and really tune in, like really taking the time to tune in and stop trying to live somebody else's dreams and goals for yourself. Really actually taking the time to just get to know yourself really well and have a relationship with yourself, and tuning in and trusting that inner, like, we have that inner sense of knowing that comes from our womb space that all women have. It's that power that's inside of us. And I wish, I knew how to trust that more at a younger age. I think that would be a huge, support, or just to trust, and trust is such a funny thing, because you need to feel safe. You need to have an environment that makes you feel safe. Safety is such a big thing, and that comes down to so many things, so many, like, there's other things that are outside of our control. I can share personal stories of we've all been raised in different environments, right? And some environments for sure, like I'm so grateful for the environment that I was raised in, because I had a really good health perspective, but like some other people weren't raised in that same environment, so they're at a disadvantage when it comes to like food and nourishment and how to really genuinely take care of their bodies. But then for me, I also grew up in a family that was pretty humble in regards to like we always had food on the table and everything like that, but I didn't grow up with business orientated parents that told me how to invest, or to buy a house, or to be smart with money, or even to like how to make have that entrepreneurial spirit. And so I catch myself all the time comparing myself to others who had more of that upbringing, where they're like, parents were more involved in helping them set them up for the future. And, there's definitely so much as, young women that I feel like we're not taught in so many areas, and to really feel safe is like, everything has to kind of be in balance, that in our health, our hormones, our relationships, how to love, how to be loved, how to be in a healthy relationship. how to be conscious communicators in our careers and our, having boundaries and not just like overly people pleasing as women tend to do, how to, be smart with finances and how to make money and invest and do all these things that like no one taught me how to do that. So I feel like there's so much that we are not given these, tools and tips for, which is why I'm so passionate about, obviously teaching and teaching at least the area that I know really well, which is obviously how to, bring your body back into harmony with your truth and your essence. And that's by living in harmony with nature, and finding out what really brings you joy. What makes you spark that energy that actually cancels out all of the negative cortisol, stress hormones in our body. It's happiness and joy and passion and purpose and something to get up for. And when we're cultivating these positive hormones, it balances out all of the negativity and the stress and the anxiety and all of the things that we actually, we consume in our life or assimilate into our bodies. When we do the things that bring us joy, this is the thing that actually like cancels out all those negative hormones.
Wow.
Yeah.
What is the one thing that brings you the most joy?
Me? Oh.
Yeah.
To be honest, being naked in the sunshine and swimming in the ocean, like I am the happiest whenever I'm naked and in the sun, like fully just, and that ability to be free, that ability for freedom and like just really raw, beautiful, harmonious living with nature. Oh, I'm the happiest, eating fruit from the trees and swimming naked by the sea, laying in the sun. And, obviously doing work like this brings me so much joy. When I work one-on-one with my clients after a session, I'm like, oh, my heart is full just to be able to hold space like that for another human being and to really see them like spark joy in themselves, when they realize what really works for them. It's such a beautiful, that human, inspiration in a way is something that really inspires me and brings me joy. Like I get so much out of it just by like being in that space. But definitely being naked in the sunshine is one thing that brings me the most amount of joy.
Oh, this is so beautiful. So how, for everyone who is listening right now, if somebody is like, hey, wow, I would love to get her maybe, work with Aimee, or how can people find you?
Yeah, for sure. So I have my Instagram, which is Green Shaker, and I'm very active there with stories, and you can see a little bit of my work. On my website as well, I have an inquiry form there as well if you do want to do one-to-one coaching. It's a 3-month program, so it's a very deep dive into this intimate container together to really see some, make lasting changes. It takes that amount of time to really, start to unravel who you are and where you came from and all of your, your backstory, so that you can actually be more proactively making these, goals and plans and incorporating them into your future. So it's a bit of deprogramming, a bit of like new learning, and then obviously some setting them in stone. So it's a 3-month container, but I do complimentary 30-minute discovery sessions if you're interested, and you can just get a little bit of a knowledge of how I work with clients. That's probably the best way. So my website or on Instagram, I'm very active over there. And if you are listening to this somewhere, please send me a message so I know that it reached someone, out there when we have a human connection, because I think that's real, this real beautiful thing that brings everyone joy is actually the human connection. So
yes. Is there something do you start a course in the future, or?
I did talk about that at the retreat. So at the moment I'm in the process of, so the one-to-one container it's not cheap. It's an expensive commitment. But as with anything in life, if you want to see a change, it's important to invest, in yourself and the time and the energy that it takes for that to happen. What I'm trying to do is actually write a group program, which incorporates a lot of like my natural food chefing, tips and lifestyle and how to cook and recipes and things like that. And then also interconnectivity between the emotional and the well-being of your, spiritual self as well. So it's incorporating a lot of like home lifestyle, holistic living, conscious awareness, relationships, career, and really finding your purpose, passion, pleasure, and play in life. So it's called Eat the Rainbow, and it is going through the 7 different chakras, which is obviously 7 different colors. And so each week is going to be going through each of those wheelhouses in our energy about who we are as humans, but then also going through some fun, playful, colorful recipes every week as well. So a combination of both food and also like holistically living and being more aware of who you are, emotional well-being.
Wow.
Yes.
Amazing.
So it will be launching soon. I do have a wait list on my website as well that you can sign up to if you want to find out more details about that. But hopefully that's going to be a 7-week online course, and it's going to be a little bit of a more approachable price point as well for everyone to join. So it's a group program.
That's so beautiful. Yes, everyone who's listening, yeah, please head to the website and have a look, right? And if you're interested, definitely send Aimee an email, right? So you have all your.
There's I have inquiry forms that you can fill out there as well. So let me know. Say hi. Connect with me in the real world.
Yes, beautiful. Is there something else you want to share at the end with everybody? Something that is on your heart that is super important for you right now?
I think going back to like what I was saying before in regards to, we're going through a really tough time right now in the world, a very transitional period. And I just wanted to say, like, you're not alone. We're all going through it in some way, even if people who look like they have it all together or doing something in the world. I think there is not a single person on this earth that is not being affected by the energy of the world right now. And it's been a long process. It's been almost 2 years now of this kind of energy of uncertainty and unclear, like clarity around. Like, I think, and the one beautiful thing that is coming out of it is it's really asking us to consider, like, who are we? What is this new identity that we all need to like step into? And who do we want to become? And what have we been putting on hold for so long in our life? And what do you need to be really stepping into? Like, what brings you joy? Really think about that. And why are you not doing more of those things in your life? And I think there's definitely an energy of the old ways are no longer going to open new doors in this next chapter that we're moving into. And so, if anything, I want to inspire and encourage people to really tune in and ask yourself the hard questions. What's not working in my life? What's holding me back from actually living being the best version of my life, of myself? What brings me joy? What area have I been putting off to not actually step into my truth and to step into the person that that you're meant to be? And so I think now is a time that it's our responsibility as humans here on this earth to really step up and shine. And so I really feel that, if you hear these words, like, really put your hand on your heart and hand on your womb and really ask yourself, what is it that I'm meant to be doing here on earth for this one precious time that we all have, especially in this energy that we're all going through, and really using, rather than being so scared or uncertain, actually changing that fear into excitement. Okay, what's next? Let's do it. Let's actually like put our energy towards excitement energy of actually doing and productively thinking in a positive manner versus like that fear stuck. Oh, what do I do? What do I do? Yes, the world is hard and it's been challenging and everyone has felt stuck, but now it's time to actually really like, okay, so what can I do about it? How can I make changes that actually going to be, supporting to be the best version of myself? And that is going to help everybody else around us. Wrong message, but yeah, that's what's on my heart right now.
Yeah, that resonates so much. Thank you so much.
Of course, my love.
Yes, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom and all the beautiful things you shared. I'm super honored that you took the time to be here for all of us. And yes, if you have any questions, please go to Aimee's website and send her a message. And yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me, beautiful. It's been so nice to connect with you and keep doing the work that you're doing in the world by having this podcast and, interviewing people that are light beings. And thank you so much for what you're doing, Angel.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.